Alright, Starfield is out, and it seems like a lot of people are really loving it. Except for people on what I would usually consider my side of the culture war. And it's a little bit strange that they are not loving it because it is quote-unquote woke. So welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and let's get into this Starfield controversy from somebody who is observing it from the outside, as I have not been playing the game. Spyro Reignited Trilogy still currently has my heart. So I first got wind of this issue when I saw this quote from Dan Vasc, somebody who I am a fan of and genuinely do respect. I just disagree with him on this particular take. Requested a refund for Starfield. Fuck Bethesda, and fuck the political radical weirdos in the Western gaming industry, staining with ideological clown world bullshit that should be the first and foremost an escape from it. Back to Skyrim. Now, here's the thing. This is all over the fact that at the beginning of the game, you are able to choose your pronouns. The pronouns of he, him, he, she, her, they, them. And normally, I would agree that that's very pandering and annoying, with the exception of the fact that this is an RPG, a role-playing game, a game where you create a character and you build your experience around playing the role of someone else, whether that you want that to be a representation of yourself, whether you want to be a representation of someone else. Anytime I play role-playing games, you know what I do? I try my damnedest to build Bruce Campbell. And when you're doing a role-playing game, it's in the name, role-playing. So if you're going to be playing the role of a person with the pronouns of they, them, or whatever, am I going to find that annoying? Am I going to think that you're probably an ideological weirdo? Yeah, I am. But at the end of the day, just because you give a character the they, them pronouns doesn't really make the game woke in and of itself, and people are saying that it's a big deal because it's at the forefront of the game. I don't know how many of you guys have ever played a Pokemon game, but you know what? The first thing they ask you to do is choose your gender. They ask you to choose whether you're a boy or a girl. Now, yes, granted, the woke part comes from whether or not, there's that third option, the they, them. But one thing at the beginning of a game, the splash screen near the beginning, doesn't make an entire game woke. Again, especially in the context of it being a role-playing game. However, Dan Vasc wasn't the only person to bring stuff like this up, so let's check out another tweet. Here we've got Nina Infinity. I almost refunded my game when Starfield asked me for pronouns. I still might. I'm annoyed about it. Update, I refunded Starfield. I had major issues with the frame rate and also issues where I would talk to an NPC and their mouth didn't move but I could hear the audio. It happened multiple times. I may not have let the pronouns thing go if the game was close to perfect. It's not. It's terribly glitchy. I had less issues with Cyberpunk at launch. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I highly doubt she had less issues with Cyberpunk at launch. Cyberpunk is known as one of the biggest mistakes in gaming history on launch. I get it. Bethesda gonna Bethesda. The memes have been around about this company for ages. But this is the only tweet I've seen where people are having issues to this extent, or especially a tweet where I've seen people comparing it to Cyberpunk. Most of the issues that they're seeing on launch, I mean, again, are typical Bethesda issues, or even if they're not typical Bethesda issues, nothing compared to what we got from the most recent Star Wars not Jedi Outcast, the Fallen Order sequel, Jedi Survivor, or whatever it was called. That game launched absolutely broken and was a dumpster fire. Nothing I've seen about Starfield thus far is near the quality of the Star Wars game that was released literally just a few months ago. Is it a perfect game by any means? I highly doubt it. It's a day one Bethesda game, but to compare it to Cyberpunk is a stretch. And at the end of the day, the reason for the refund is, yes, don't get me wrong, there are these glitches, but also it's because, like she said earlier, the pronouns thing. Then to move on, we got Cecil Says, someone I'm far less familiar with than the first two, but still I have seen him from time to time. He's been on some streams. I've somewhat enjoyed his takes, and he's responding to loftypixels. See, loftypixels first says, Starfield lets you choose your own pronouns. Lofty's retarded for not giving a shit. Boycott the game or you're woke. WTF, have fun being boring and not playing Baldur's Gate 3 or Starfield because they force you to choose your own pronouns in a game about player freedom. And that's an interesting point. It's about player freedom. That's the point of RPGs in general, is player freedom. No two people who go through and play an RPG are likely going to have the exact same experience. Some may be more close than others because some RPGs are more limiting than others, but in general, role-playing games are going to vary wildly from player to player because people have different ways of attacking these very choice-based games. But then Cecil says, people are taking a stand I don't agree with. We are buried in this horseshit because the masses just shrug and go along with it no matter how fucking stupid it is. Good on the people that say fuck off. Messages need to be sent. He says send, but he meant sent. Bud Light got theirs loud and clear. I have a problem comparing this game to the Bud Light scenario. This is just about pronouns on a splash screen. Bud Light took a very recognizable brand that had been an American brand for years upon years, and they desecrated what the brand was about to appeal to 0.1% of a population in a horrible marketing move from a very successful, long-standing company. This is a brand new IP. Aren't people always saying if you like that stuff so much, go make your own shit? Well, now, here we are. Bethesda comes out with a new IP, completely original, Starfield, and that's what they did. They made their own shit. They didn't go back. They didn't update Skyrim to where now on Skyrim you have to choose, between the they-them option or anything like that. But we're getting to this discussion about what is woke, and I think the people who are entrenched in the culture war are now just super sensitive to anything that might be considered woke or on the left or whatnot without even understanding what woke means. I say all the time, I hate that word because the word woke has lost all meaning. What about this is woke? Giving the option for they, them pronouns. What about that is woke? Well, let's dissect what woke is for a second. Woke is when you have your ideology, take priority over any other experience in whatever the, medium is. So if you're watching, let's say She-Hulk, the ideology takes front and center stage over the actual content of the story or the characters. But does choosing they, them pronouns really take priority over any sort of ideological priority, that is, over the actual content within Starfield? No, it doesn't. You guys are making this a bigger deal than it actually is because you can't look at anything without seeing the culture war. People always talk about how those on the left, those crazy leftists, every single thing they don't like is alt-right, or every single thing they don't like is Nazi, everything is racist, everything's homophobic, this, that, and the other, when now you're doing the same thing. In fact, I've been seeing this ramping up on this side of the culture war for a while. Automatically, something comes out that they don't agree with, and, it's woke, disregarding what woke actually is, which is when you put ideology first, and when ideology is a dominant oppressive force in whatever version of form of entertainment that you're consuming. Like when you have characters acting out of character because they want to push a message, that is woke. For that's an example. Nothing about choosing pronouns and then moving on to explore the rest of the game is woke. Now, you could say that it's annoying because, they're catering to these people who use these stupid they, them pronouns, and fair enough, you can consider it annoying, but it's not actually woke. At the end of the day, I think people just have a simple misunderstanding for what woke is and for what role-playing games are. And so when you've got the two together, this is making for an explosive conversation online where nobody actually has any idea what they're talking about if they're getting upset about the idea of they, them pronouns being an option in a video game. I also want to go back to something that Cecil said in his tweet. We are buried in this horseshit because the masses just shrug and go along with it no matter how fucking stupid it is. That is normally something I would agree with. That's a sentiment I would get behind. The reason things have gotten this bad is because we just sat by and let it happen. That being said, there are levels of, acceptance and whatnot that, in my opinion, are perfectly fine. Choosing for a video game to have an option like they, them shouldn't be a big deal. Now, if they took every single character in that video game and made all of them, didn't have an option. Like, they are all gay, they're all lesbians, no characters are white because they don't want oppressive white characters. That would be a problem. Yeah, that is very obvious ideology at work. But so far as I can tell from an outsider looking in, Starfield's not doing anything like that. It gave an option for pronouns. Like, they're really over-exaggerating this one because people are so entrenched in the culture war, they don't actually know what it's like to just sit back and experience something anymore. I was fully prepared to dislike One Piece, not only because it didn't follow the source material, but I was sure Netflix would do what Netflix always does and add some sort of modern-day political social commentary in there about white man bad or straight man bad or whatever, but they didn't do anything like that. So not only was the show good on its own merits, it also wasn't woke. If the show was, poor, bad on its own merits, but wasn't woke, it would still have been a bad show. Not being woke is not good enough to merit success, in my opinion. Something has to be both not woke and actually of good quality. From everything I've heard from all the individuals that are not participating in the culture war heavily and who don't just live their lives online, everyone's loving Starfield. Like people have been waiting for this game for ages. Cult Classic Cage has been buried in this game, and she seems to be really enjoying it. Spoiler alert, much like your boy here, she's labeled as an anti-woke YouTuber. Not something that either of us, by the way, really got in to be. So much so as we went in here just to get our opinions out and had that label thrust upon us. And so now, here I am espousing some, I guess, woke shit. People are going to immediately think that I'm a Benedict Arnold, I've turned coat, or anything to those effects. But at the end of the day, there's a difference between being a reactionary who's just upset at every little thing that you don't agree with, and something actually being woke. I myself don't want to be one of these ideological ingrates who just jump to whatever the exact opposite of the woke side is. There really is room in the middle for both. Some things can have elements that are, let's say, progressive or inclusive or whatnot, without being woke. And that seems to me what Starfield is doing. And then right here, we've got this tweet from loftypixels where he's quote tweeting bro Derek Forstead, showing exactly what I'm talking about. People who are so staunchly anti-woke, they're taking it to the same ludicrous levels as woke people. We've got Broderick here saying, you're a POS for defending an ideology that harms children. You and everything you represent should be metaphorically in Minecraft be burned down. Like, someone out there calling for violence effectively because loftypixels is one of the few people like myself, or at least few people on this side of the internet, I should say, who's saying the game isn't woke. Apparently now I'm defending trans and kids because I don't think Starfield is woke, even though I've been incredibly vocal against trans and kids on stream and on Twitter. I'm about to have a Joker moment for real, lol. And yeah, if for anyone that follows loftypixels, dude is also incredibly anti-woke. He's just also very pro-common sense so far as I can tell from the interactions that we've had on streams and whatnot. He's very pro-common sense and also doesn't sweat the little things. They-them option being in a video game is a little thing. Johnny Boy getting his dick cut off at 9 years old, that's a big thing. That's the sort of thing we should definitely throw a fit about. But we shouldn't conflate the two as if they're the same. I remember when Matt Damon had this incredible speech during the Me Too era. He was on camera stating that, obviously sexual assault is bad and patting a woman on a butt without consent is bad, but the two should not be conflated like they were being during the Me Too movement. And people threw Matt Damon under the bus. They put him on blast for that objectively true statement that, yeah, probably slapping women on the ass without consent is bad, but let's not pretend it's the same as like legit sexual assault. There's probably different tiers and levels to this sort of thing. But to the left, to the woke left, oh no, it's all the same. It's all the utmost, the greatest sin. You absolutely have to be canceled for it and you can never return. As opposed to now, we have the hard anti-woke individuals doing the same thing. They're saying that Lofty is defending an ideology that harms children just for saying that it's no big deal that a role-playing game gives you the chance to choose pronouns. How is that not the exact same, leaps in logic that we've all been chastising the left and the woke individuals for doing? You absolute hypocrites is what you are. I'm not going to stay on this very long. I just thought that, I do have to say something about this because while I am in this culture war, while I'm definitely in it for what is my opinion, fighting the good fight, there is such a thing when your ideology and your ideas take such grasp and such hold of you that you no longer recognize what the good fight is. You just become a reactionary. I myself never want to become one of those individuals. I haven't played Starfield yet. I might eventually maybe, get Game Pass or whatnot and take a look at it that way. I am a Bethesda fan, but it's also not super high on my priority list, at least as of right now. Who knows, maybe that'll change in as little as a few days. But the point I'm trying to make is people are throwing a fit over nothing, and it's all because they're living online and they're attributing the idea of wokeness in places where there isn't actually any wokeness, and it's making our side look like morons, just like the left and just like the wokesters have looked like for years now. You guys are becoming lolcow, yin-yang versions of everything you've been fighting against, and I think it needs to stop because it doesn't help our movement in any way, shape, or form, and it's not going to help get things back to normal. I mean, this game is an explosively popular game. So is Baldur's Gate 3. And they're probably both in contender. Baldur's Gate 3 is absolutely in contender for Game of the Year, and Starfield probably is too. Hogwarts Legacy might be. Everyone championed that game because of how anti-woke it was. But there's a trans character in Hogwarts Legacy. There's an openly trans character in Hogwarts Legacy, which takes place in the 1800s. Oh, but that game was so anti-woke, and everyone had to have it because it owned the libs. No. I need y'all to be philosophically consistent. If Hogwarts Legacy was fine, even though it had an openly trans character in it, then choosing they-them as optional pronouns in a role-playing game is also fine. Shut the hell up. Those are my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on Twitter, where you can find me at Bolt the Word. And please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day, usually 2 videos a day. Today included. That's right, I'm getting back to a second upload today, and it's going to be what a shock about the One Piece live-action adaptation, because IGN has said some ridiculous things about this adaptation, and we gotta talk about that. But I need to know your guys' thoughts. What do you think about the idea that this game is woke, the they-thems, the pronouns? Am I off base? I mean, I love to hear discussion, because unlike people who are woke, me on this anti-woke side of things, I'm down to have a dialogue. I'm down to have a conversation. If you have a certain viewpoint that you think that I'm incorrect on, dude, let me know. Comment on this video. Find me on Twitter at Bolt the Word. Let's have that dialogue, because if you disagree with me, that's fine. We can actually all still coexist together and have a great life and have a lot of fun just living in the same space and talking about nerdy subjects, even if we disagree, and we can still get along in the long run. Until then, it's all here in the nerdosphere, and this has been Words of Paradise.